speaking of forever chemicals and endocrine disruptors, the Teflon coated fry pans are great endocrine disruptors. PTFEs, PFOAs have replaced them. They're no better. Stainless steel cookware is great. You may not like it because it's hard to clean, but get over it. Stay away from aluminum. Aluminum leaches into the food we eat, and aluminum has a very interesting role in neurotoxicity, and we could spend an hour talking about that. So stay away from aluminum. My YouTube video on cast iron skillets went ballistic. The problem with cast iron is that iron dramatically ages us, and it makes us rust. And we measure serum irons on our patients as well. And we noticed early on people with high iron levels often were using cast iron skillets. And when we asked them to stop using their cast iron skillets, their iron levels went back down. And this was a very consistent phenomenon. Now, nobody needs a cast iron skillet. If you have to have a cast iron skillet, get an enamel-covered cast iron skillet. There's a number of good companies that make them. You can have the heat conductive properties of cast iron, and you'll not get the iron in your system. And in fact, on the comment section, which have gone for miles and in pages, I have a number of my female patients luckily write in and say, yeah, I can confirm this. I'm one of those patients. And yes, I absorb iron from my cast iron. Now, if you're a menstruating female and you have heavy menses and you have low irons, then I have no problem with you using a cast iron skillet. But the problem is then when you stop menstruating, please get rid of your cast iron skillet, okay? The other problem, there are ceramic pans that don't use these forever chemicals. And you still have to be careful. You still don't want to use metal utensils. You do not want to scratch the surface of these things. And that's really when a lot of these chemicals become really mischievous. So get yourself a bunch of wood, utensils. I've got a whole drawer full of them. They're kind of fun. And so that's my take on that. What was our other question?
Let me jump in on the iron piece before we move forward. So iron ages us. There was two things I wanted to address. One being menstruating females, which you did. The second piece is for menstruating females taking supplements of iron, because I know that's a common thing. Is that something, again, like the pan, when they're at that stage of life and menstruating, it's okay, but then after that to stop?
Yes. The other thing that I think we should all hopefully realize is, first of all, for a man to have a low iron level, something is really wrong. You're losing blood somewhere, and it's usually in your GI tract. For a postmenopausal woman who has a low iron level, something is really wrong. And in general, you're losing iron from your GI tract. Now, a lot of times we find that it's a colon polyp or many colon polyps that's doing this. Sometimes we find ulcers and gastritis, okay? What a lot of people don't realize is that non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like Advil, Aleve, ibuprofen damage the small intestine. And I've written a lot about this. Drug companies know they do it. Those are out of the reach of our scopes, unless somebody's swallowing a pill camera, but the pill camera really can't see this. And a number of my patients, particularly women, and some male golfers, have low irons, and after we've looked everywhere else, we take away their pain relievers, like ibuprofen, and lo and behold, that was the cause of their low iron. It was damaging their small intestine. But the point of that video was, look, if you've got a low iron and you're a non-menstruating female or a non-menstruating male, there's a bad reason that you need to find out why you have a low iron. And all the iron pills and all the iron skillets to get your iron up isn't the useful thing to do.
All right, so the last piece to the cooking is methods of cooking that people are doing that are unhealthy.
Yeah, anytime we use high heat to sear something, we create advanced glycation end products, AGEs, and they age us. And unfortunately, we make ages all the time. Ages are made with the combination of the sugars in the meat and even the vegetables, the protein in the meat, and you get a chemical bond with the presence of heat, which is one of the strongest chemical bonds that's ever been described, and it's called the Maillard reaction. So these ages are one of the things that age us. Now, one of the problems is we can absorb these, and we can also manufacture them. We have sugar in our body, we have proteins in our body, and we have heat in our body. And when we measure hemoglobin A1C, which literally measures the ages attached to our red blood cells, which looks at what we've been doing for the 2 months before the test, hemoglobin A1C is a really good way of deciding how slow or fast we're aging. And me, I'm not particularly interested in aging quickly. So, for instance, steaming really doesn't do this. Does everybody want a good char on whatever they're eating? Yeah, but again, we shouldn't do that every day. Pressure cooking doesn't do it, but steaming is still pretty doggone useful.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
So what we're learning, sadly, is, yeah, you can have microscopic, nano molecules of these things, but because they never detach.